Hi, this is Lucia with The Art of Love. I'm a dating and relationship expert specializing in helping you get your ex back. Today's topic is 12 signs your ex is never coming back. I know, scary topic. And the bad news is that the more of these signs that you see, then the less likely it is that your ex will come back. But the good news is that for some of these signs, it's still possible to get your ex back. Things can reverse. So stay tuned. But before I tell you what those signs are, I want to remind you to be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future videos. And while you're at it, tap the bell icon so you'll be notified when a new video is up. All right, let's start with the first one, and that is they changed their number. Now, this doesn't happen very often. I mean, how often have you changed your number because of an ex, or how often has an ex of yours changed their number? So this probably won't happen, but if your ex has to change their number because of you, then there's a very high probability that they are never coming back, because that's a very drastic action to take. People do not want to change their numbers. It means that you have probably been bugging them and calling them and texting them, and they just want to get rid of you. So they're like, you know what? I'm just going to change my number. It's hard to come back from that one. The next one is that they've moved. And I don't mean moved in another place in the same city. I mean they've moved. They're in another state, across the country, another continent. Relationships are difficult already in person. So if they've moved, it's going to be that much harder to get them back. So if they've moved, I mean, listen, they can always move back, or they can always still contact you, even if they have moved. I remember I was dating someone, and then we broke up only because they moved to another state. But then about a year and a half later, he moved back. But I wasn't interested anymore at that time. So people move, and sometimes people move back. You never know. The third sign is that they told you so. They told you, I am never coming back. Or to quote Taylor Swift, we are never, ever getting back together. But you know what? People have said that, and then they've gotten back together. So it really depends on when they say that. If they say that when they break up with you, or within a few weeks, or maybe even a month, it's possible that they're still upset, they're still acting and reacting from emotion, and so that's what they want to tell you. Sometimes they say that just to get a reaction, just to piss you off, just to see what you're going to do, what you're going to say, and sometimes they really mean it. But usually if they say it close to the breakup, there's a good chance it'll reverse. However, if 2, 3, 4 months down the line, you're still not back together, and they say to you, we're not getting back together, then the chances are low that you will get back together. The next one is that they block you everywhere. So again, this is similar to the previous one about them telling you, and that is, if they block you right away, again, they're acting from emotion. They just don't want to have anything to do with you in that moment. So that's better than them actually blocking you 2, 3, 4 months down the line, because by then they're not so much in their emotions, they're not so reactionary, and now they're acting from logic. And so if they didn't block you at all, and all of a sudden after 2, 3, 4 months they block you, that's not a good sign. And usually if they block you, it's because you've been contacting them, because otherwise, why would they block you? Unless, as I said, it's to get a reaction, or because they just don't want to hear from you at that moment. And I have an ex that I had to block everywhere, and I'm not big on blocking. But this guy was still contacting me years after the breakup. And he wouldn't just call and then leave a message and then not call again for a while. He would call, and then half an hour later he would call again, and then an hour later he would call again. And so I'm like, all right, that's it. I do not want to hear my phone ringing. I do not want to hear from him. So every time I blocked him, he would then find another way to contact me, and then I would block him on that platform. And now I think I've got all my platforms covered. I haven't heard from him in a while. And I know definitely I will never get back with him. The next one is a restraining order. Yeah. Now, have people gotten back together after they took a restraining order out on an ex or someone? Yeah. But if they had to get a restraining order, that's pretty bad. Like, what were you doing that they had to get a restraining order? So that's probably one of the ones that is more difficult to come back from. If they had to go to get a restraining order, that's pretty serious. The next one is that they are engaged or married. However, I actually have good news for this, believe it or not. I mean, people get engaged, people get disengaged. People get married, and people get divorced. And actually, I know of a woman who told me her story. She said she dated someone when she was in her 20s, and he wanted to get married. He was serious, but she just wasn't ready at that time. And so they broke up, and then he went on to marry someone else. And then a few years later, she realized that she had lost a great guy, but of course she couldn't do anything because he was married. So then more years went by, and I don't remember what she said. Somehow she got in touch with him, or something happened. Anyways, they were in touch, and he told her he was getting a divorce. And so guess who's married now? Those two, the original couple. So it can happen. Is it the rule? Probably not. But it can happen. I just want to give you a bit of hope, because I know if your ex gets married, you're like, uh-oh, that's it. You never know. But I don't want you holding a torch for years and years. Move on with your life, and if it happens that you get back together, great. If not, hopefully you'll find someone just as good, if not better. The next sign that you will never get back with your ex is that they want nothing to do with you. So you may be trying to contact them directly or through friends, and they are just not having it. They want nothing to do with you. This is similar to the situation with the guy I told you about that I blocked everywhere. I want nothing to do with him. I don't care what he's got to say. I don't care if he's changed. It's over. I mean, there comes a time when it's just over for someone, and they don't care if you've changed, etc. They've had it, and that's it. So if they want absolutely nothing to do with you, you call them, you try to send messages through friends, you try to run into them, you apologize, you've tried everything, no contact, and still nothing, then unfortunately in that case, it's over. The next sign is that they won't agree to meet up or hang out. So I've done a video on this, and this was about the sign that an ex is going to get back together, and that is that they're willing to meet up, because if you don't meet up, then you can't get back together. I mean, are you going to have a virtual relationship? So a lot of times exes contact you, you're talking, and you think, oh wow, we're going to meet up and get back together, but they never meet up. So if they're not willing to meet up, no matter how much they contact you, then you're not getting back together. They just want your attention, the ego stroke, something, but you're not getting back together. The next one is they tell you to move on. Now, if they tell this to you soon after the breakup or during the breakup, possibility they're trying to get a reaction, or that's exactly how they feel at that moment. And they may change their minds. But if, again, after 2, 3, 4 months, they tell you, listen, move on, then by then they're not as emotional, they're thinking more logically, and they really do mean it. It's like, please just move on. It's similar to, well, I'm not good enough for you, or, I'm sure there's someone better out there for you. Same thing, different words. So if they tell you to move on, then they're probably not coming back. The next one is that they are dating someone new for at least 6 months. Okay, so it's not like they've been dating them for 1 month, 2 weeks, 2 months, 3 months. If it's been 6 months, then that's not a good sign for you. And obviously the longer they date, then the less likely they are to come back. But again, people do break up. They could date for a year, they could date for 2 years and break up. You never know. But in the moment, if they're dating someone for 6 months, then there's a good chance they're not coming back anytime soon. The next sign is that 9 months have gone by since the breakup. Now, I've done a video on this, and I actually said after 9 months, you can contact your ex, because at that point you have nothing to lose, because they're probably not going to contact you. So if 9 months have gone by since the breakup and there's been no communication, or they haven't tried to get back together in that 9 months, then there's a very good chance that you won't get back together. But then again, I had a client that did get back together with someone, with their ex, after a year, and then more recently, someone that got back with their ex after 2 years. So there's always a few exceptions, but for the most part, if 9 months go by and you're still not back together, then it's not looking good for your team. And then finally, the last sign, number 12, they're not responding to calls and messages. So if you break no contact and you call them and you message them and they're not responding at all, you're probably not going to get back together. Because most people, they will at least respond and say, hey, hi, what's up? They'll be polite. But if they totally don't respond, it's because they don't want to give you any false hope and they want nothing to do with you. Again, referring to my example of the guy who I broke up with and blocked everywhere. I'm not responding because I don't want, because I know if I give him an inch, he's going to take a mile. He's going to think, oh, good, I can see her, I can call her more, we can talk. It's like, no, I want nothing to do with you. We are never getting back together. I don't want to be friends, so I'm not going to give him any glimmer of hope. I'm not even going to say hi. I want absolutely nothing to do with him. And so if they're not responding to your calls, messages, whatever, then there's a very good chance that you are not getting back together. So I'd like to hear from you and tell me, how many of these signs have you seen in your breakup? It'll be interesting to find out. And in the meantime, if you would like help getting your ex back, you can contact me at theartoflove.net. The direct link is below and we'll send you the rates for that. If you are listening on YouTube, remember to like and subscribe, and most importantly to share, because people make so many mistakes after a breakup, as you well know. So just as I've helped you, please help them by sharing this. If you are listening on iTunes, I would appreciate it if you would rate and review the podcast. And finally, remember that love inspires, empowers, uplifts, and enlightens.